Have you ever felt forgotten by the people you love slowly, quietly slipping out of sight until one day you realize no one seems to notice whether you're there or not? I'm 76 years old now. Once upon a time, I was busy, my calendar full, my phone always ringing. People needed me, valued my advice, enjoyed my company. But recently, sitting quietly in my living room, watching the silent phone, it hit me sharply. I couldn't remember the last time it rang. No one had called. No one had visited. No one seemed to notice how quiet my days had become. It wasn't anger I felt, just a deep, unspoken sadness. How long had I been slowly fading away without even realizing? If this story resonates with you, you're not alone. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, or simply say, "I'm still here." And if you believe more people should hear voices like ours, subscribe, and help us grow. Thank you for being here. Chapter 1. The day the phone stopped ringing. There was no official notice, no argument, no final goodbye. Just a quiet realization one day. I noticed the phone had stopped ringing. I sat in my favorite chair by the window, the one Miriam and I picked out together decades ago, and waited for a call that never came. Morning turned into afternoon, and the silence stayed. The phone had once been a lifeline, children checking in, old friends sharing memories, neighbors asking for help. I was someone people counted on, someone people needed. But over time, birthdays were missed. Holidays passed with just a short message. Even those stopped eventually. Everyone had their reasons: work, family, life, and I understood. But understanding doesn't soften the ache. It's not the silence that hurts most, it's the feeling of being gently erased from the world you once helped build. You begin to wonder, did I matter only when I was useful? Psychologists say social isolation increases mortality rates, worsens heart health, even mimics the effects of smoking. But I didn't need a study to tell me that. My chest felt heavier with every passing day. Some days I'd speak out loud just to hear a voice, my own. If this sounds familiar, don't wait for someone else to reach out. Call first, write a letter, or tell someone you miss them. Because the worst silence isn't from the phone. It's from within. Chapter 2. When I realized I wasn't asked anymore. I remember overhearing my grandchildren planning a family gathering, an event I once helped organize, offering wisdom, laughter, and gentle support. But no one asked my opinion this time. No one sought my guidance. They'd moved forward quietly without me. I realized then it wasn't just invitations I missed, it was the feeling of being needed, being relevant, being useful. The gentle sting wasn't loud. It quietly seeped in, softly whispering that maybe my contributions were no longer valued. I used to be the one they called when something broke, when emotions ran high, when a decision felt too heavy. My words once carried weight. But now, I listened to plans through closed doors, laughter in another room, and felt more like a guest than family. That's when it truly struck me. I hadn't changed, but my role in their world had. Psychologists say emotional neglect in older adults quietly diminishes our sense of worth, silently eroding identity. It's not about recognition, it's about feeling meaningful, seen. When that fades, a quiet grief settles in, unnoticed by those who've moved on without you. Still, I believe it's never too late to matter again. Sometimes, it takes gently stepping forward, reminding others you still have stories, wisdom, and warmth to share. Chapter 3. The Slow Fade of Purpose. Ents had purpose clearly defined by my roles: employee, father, husband, friend. My days were filled with meetings, errands, and people relying on me. I was tired, but it was a fulfilling kind of tired. Then came retirement. The relief was real, but beneath it was a quiet unease. My daily rituals, once filled with urgency and direction, slowly lost their shape. I had time, but no reason to use it. I started waking up later. reading the same paragraph twice, letting the coffee go cold. The hours didn't feel restful. They felt hollow. Purpose isn't a luxury, it's a compass. Without it, we drift. And drifting becomes loneliness. It's not dramatic. It's not even immediately painful, but slowly it weighs you down. Studies show purpose protects against depression, cognitive decline, even early death. Yet no one tells you how to rebuild it once it fades. I tried volunteering, gardening, writing letters to my grandchildren. Not all of it stuck. But one day, I helped an old neighbor fix his porch, and he smiled like I'd saved his year. That's when I realized purpose doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be real, small acts, shared moments, quiet usefulness. That's what matters. And when I started treating small moments like sacred tasks, I felt alive again. I started keeping a small notebook, writing down the tiniest tasks. Take a walk, send a message, fix the squeaky drawer. Each checked box felt like a small return to relevance. Eventually, I stopped asking, "What's the point?" and started saying, "This is mine to do." Purpose, I realized, is not what we're given, it's what we choose to give. Chapter 4: The Weight of Being Unseen. There's a quiet heaviness to being overlooked, an invisible burden carried unnoticed. At the grocery store, cashiers smiled politely, but never really saw me. On walks, neighbors waved vaguely, never stopping for conversations we once enjoyed. At first, I thought I was imagining it, just being sensitive. But over time, I realized it wasn't a feeling, it was a fact. I had become less visible, not because I changed, but because the world around me stopped looking. It's subtle, no harsh words, no outright rejection. Just a slow fading into the background. People began talking over me in group settings or repeating suggestions I had just made as if they were new ideas. Waiters addressed younger companions at the table instead of me. Psychological studies describe this experience as social invisibility, and it's far more damaging than it sounds. It affects self-esteem, contributes to loneliness, and chips away at emotional well-being. This isn't about vanity, it's about acknowledgement. Being seen validates our existence. Being ignored slowly eats away at it. One afternoon, I walked into a small art gallery. The attendant greeted me, asked about my interests, and treated me like I mattered. It was the first time in weeks someone truly looked at me, and it felt like sunlight after a long winter. After that day, I started choosing spaces that saw me. I spoke up more, even if my voice shook. I joined a local book club where everyone's voice was heard. Visibility, I realized, isn't always given. Sometimes we have to reclaim it gently, one interaction at a time. Chapter 5: Relearning How to Matter Again. But quietly, amidst the loneliness, I realized something profound. If the world didn't naturally see me, I needed to gently show up for myself. I couldn't rely on others alone. I had to quietly reclaim my own value. At first, I didn't know where to begin. Every attempt felt awkward, every social space intimidating. But I reminded myself that courage isn't loud. It's just showing up, even when no one's looking. So I started small. I volunteered once a week at a local community center, just helping organize books, clean tables, greet people at the door. Slowly, faces became familiar. Conversations grew easier. I laughed again, even if just softly. One day, a teenager walked in, looking lost. I offered help. He told me later I made him feel seen when he needed it most. That moment mattered to him and to me. For the first time in years, I felt useful. I mattered. Psychologists say that helping others restores a sense of agency and purpose in older adults. Volunteering, mentoring, and teaching are powerful tools not only for society, but for our own emotional health. I began mentoring youth in a small reading group. Their energy gave me life. My stories made them smile. I wasn't just surviving, I was giving. And in that giving, I found pieces of myself I'd quietly shelved away. It didn't erase the loneliness entirely, but it rewrote the story. From forgotten to involved, from irrelevant to meaningful. Sometimes we wait for others to pull us back into the world, but sometimes we have to knock gently and walk ourselves in. That's how I learned to matter again, not because others said so, but because I remembered I still could. Final reflection. Being forgotten is a quiet ache many elders feel. It's subtle, invisible to younger eyes, but real and deeply felt. Yet within that ache lies something powerful, the opportunity to remember ourselves. I once believed relevance had to be given by others through attention, admiration, or obligation. But I've come to understand that relevance starts from within. The moment we choose to engage again, to speak, to help, to show up, we begin to rewrite our place in the world. Aging may quiet our roles, shrink our circles, and dim our visibility. But it cannot erase our wisdom, our worth, or our capacity to connect. We are not empty shells of who we once were. We are evolving stories still in motion, still full of meaning. If you feel unseen, unheard, or unnecessary, please don't fade quietly. You still matter, not because of what you once did, but because of who you still are. You have the power to light someone's day with a kind word, to teach something you've learned through a lifetime, to bring comfort through presence alone. You are not irrelevant. You are not finished. Let the world see you again. But more importantly, see yourself again. You're still here. And that means your story isn't over yet.